Hello, this is Angela Arden with the second part, episode 2 of the interview, the Esquire interview, the first ever interview of Quentin Tarantino, Brad Pitt, and Leonardo DiCaprio after the wrapping of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood about 2 years ago now. Okay, so the title of this Esquire interview is called Quentin Tarantino, Brad Pitt, and Leonardo DiCaprio Take You Inside Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The date of this interview is May 21st, 2019. The interviewer is Michael Haney, and the exclusive photographs that accompanied this interview are done by Alexei Lubomirsky. Now, in this episode, after the coffee, the first 12 photographs are the last of the exclusive photographs in Esquire that accompanied this article that I had just mentioned. After that are photographs from Google Images. Now, just to refresh your memory, Michael Haney had talked about what Quentin says whenever they go back to one, which is, let's do it one more time. Why? Because we love making movies. And Brad Pitt, all three of them had chimed in on that. And then Brad Pitt said, it's that great spirit, true. And that was where we left off. There was an aside about great vlogs that you can find on the subject of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, this film. And now we're ready to move on. So after Brad Pitt said, it's that great spirit, true, Leonardo DiCaprio. His sets are so magnetic. You don't walk onto sets like this anymore, where everyone has respect for the process. There's this celebration of a way of making movies that has slowly become an antiquity in this industry. Quentin puts a tremendous amount of thought into making these characters come to life, making the authenticity of the period come to life. There's also this freedom and energy we feel on his set. It's become a rarity to have a process the way he has it, and that is taking the time to fucking get it right at all costs. Brad Pitt. And to know when you got it. Michael Haney has put titles like chapters in this interview. And the first one is called Building Character. Michael Haney. Quentin, what did Brad and Leo find in the characters that you hadn't put on the page? Quentin Tarantino. Quite a bit. Brad was already aware of the history of different actor-stuntman teams, so he immediately was like, quote, oh, this is like Steve McQueen and Bud Ekins, period, end quote. Which means, Leo's character is sort of the poor man's McQueen. Brad Pitt, which would make me the poor man's Bud Ekins. Quentin Tino laughs and then says, Brad immediately thought that the idea was hip and really wanted to lean into it. But there's an interesting thing as far as Cliff is concerned. We follow 3 different people in Hollywood, and they represent the 3 social strata of the town. We follow Sharon, who is truly living the Hollywood life. Then Rick, who is doing better than he thinks he's doing. He has a house, some money, and he's still working. Then Cliff, represents a guy who was dedicated his entire life to the industry and has nothing to show for it. Box parenthesis. DiCaprio and Pitt laugh. Period. End box parenthesis. He is part of Hollywood. But he lives in Panorama City in a trailer. Make no mistake, Hollywood is his life, but he is not a citizen. These three social strata are important to the story. And there's a neat aspect when it comes to Cliff and then to Brad, developing Cliff's character. He and I are very similar in age, so this is an equal memory piece for Brad. In 1969, we were both 5, 6 years old. We both remember the shows that were on TV and what was on the radio. But with Leonardo, who didn't grow up in the same era as Brad and me, I needed to find references for him, and that gave it a freshness, watching Leo watch old Western TV shows I'd given him. Then I'd invent a movie that Rick could have starred in, like The 14 Fists of McCluskey, which is like a poor man's Dirty Dozen. I said to Leo, quote, if Rick's revival, Steve McQueen, does The Magnificent Seven, Rick is the kind of guy who would have been in the third sequel as the second lead. Period. End quote. Michael Haney, Leo, what did you bring from your life? Leo DiCaprio. Or the third or fourth? Leo said. Quentin Tarantino. No, you're the second guy. You're like Monty Markham, who also played Death in the first remake of Death Takes a Holiday. Brad Pitt. Yeah, those remakes should have stopped there. Period, box, parenthesis. Pitt starred in Meet Joe Black, the third remake of Death Takes a Holiday. Period, end box, parenthesis. This is Angela, and this is an aside. If you have never seen Brad Pitt in Meet Joe Black, see it. I had not seen the what it was remade from, Death Takes a Holiday, but the movie is very good and different. I thought it was a good choice for him. I liked it a lot. Back to the interview. Michael Haney. Quentin, you're touching on something. In acting, there's how the character is written, and then the experiences or memories an actor brings to the character. Brad, what did you pull from your life? Brad Pitt. I had growing up flashbacks because the flavors were all there. For instance, in the movie, Cliff lives next door to a drive-in theater. In Missouri, I grew up a few streets over from a drive-in theater, and I would go and hang out at my friend's house so we could watch movies from his backyard. It's just a lot of crossovers for me. I think it has something to do with Quentin's writing. Surely it must. Cliff's close to my father's age, a little older. Michael Haney. Leo, what did you bring from your life? Leo DiCaprio. I grew up in this industry, and I have a lot of friends I've known since I was 13 who are actors. I've seen the trials and tribulations. Some of the struggles I immediately recognized. The search for your own identity and the search for success in an industry that rejects 99% of the actors from this elite class of being able to choose your own work. I have many friends in that situation. They all love movie making, but do a lot of them feel like they belong to the club? Rick, his whole life, is wanting to belong to that club. He's consistently feeling rejected. Almost had that one shot where if things would have played correctly. Here's an aside. By the way, if some of you are new listeners, I hope that you realize this is my first read at this, so this is my first reaction, and that's why I do asides. And my reaction here is that I am blown away by Leo's response. Really, everybody's great, but especially Leo, because I didn't realize, and Brad too, I just didn't realize how much these guys get the characters that they play. I mean, I know they do a great job, but I guess it's really just dawning on me how much they sympathize with these characters. They really feel for them. So when you're watching them in this movie, just know that that hurt that they're going through is real. That's a place that they have made room for within themselves. And when they are on screen, they're those people, you know, in their mind and their heart. That is why they are who they are. That is why Quentin Tarantino went to them, because he knows who they are too. And now, so do we. I love each and every one of you, including you, Margot Robbie. Arden out, and now back to the interview. Michael Haney. So you know these guys. Leonardo DiCaprio. Oh yes. But what I really loved about this movie is there's a lot of love in the story of Cliff and Rick's relationship. Because through all of this, they are like family. They've created a family unit and a connection that's going to let them survive the stomping of their dreams. Michael Haney has created another section title, and this one is called Looking Within. Michael Haney. It's one of the echoes I love in this film. The layers. I mean, this is a story about guys who act in westerns at a time when the western, which has always been a metaphor for American manhood and the idea of the rugged individual, is totally changing. Look at the different versions of westerns that came out of 1969 and what they say about manhood and how we see America. True Grit, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Easy Rider, Midnight Cowboy, The Wild Bunch. And here you are, Rick and Cliff, in a period piece that riffs on an essential dynamic of the Western, the duo, the buddies. Quentin Tarantino. One of the things that Leonardo did, my prose, was telling him a lot of the backstory. Was he said, comma quote, I need a little more to play, period, quote. Box parenthesis, bangs table, period, end box parenthesis. He said, comma quote, I need to act through something, period, end parent. In talking about the different actors of that era, I said something that intrigued him. I brought up, I think I can say this, Leonardo DiCaprio, Ralph Meeker, Quentin Tarantino. No, I love that, but Pete Duel. Leo DiCaprio. Oh yeah. Quentin Tarantino. It started when Brad brought up Alias Smith and Jones. Box parenthesis. A Western on ABC, 1971 to 73, end box parenthesis, comma. And we both loved it when we were kids. As we were talking, it occurred to us that because of that show, it was the first time he and I had ever heard of suicide in real life. Pete Duel, who played Hannibal Hayes, killed himself. Brad Pitt. I remember I was at my grandma's house when I learned this, and I remember walking into a dark bedroom. It was a little teeny house. I went into the bedroom where it was dark, and I burst into tears. I was so upset. Leonardo DiCaprio. I remember your conversation that day, but I had no idea about the show and the actors. But you both said you had that same exact reaction. Quentin Tarantino. The fact that we both learned about suicide because of Pete Duel at age 8 or whatever it was. Leonardo DiCaprio. For me, that made it this really strong reality for this town. And having also seen this happen with some of my contemporaries in the industry, how that wear and tear and constant disappointment can lead to that. I really wanted to infuse at least the feeling for the audience that suicide is an absolute possibility for Rick. Quentin Tarantino. From us talking about it, we realized why Pete Duel did it. In retrospect, he was bipolar. He was drinking to self-medicate. So then we thought, maybe Rick has a drinking problem. I had not written him in that way, but there always was this crazy swing of his emotions. Now there was a rooted cause, and that was the one Leo responded to. Box parenthesis, claps hands, period, end box parenthesis. Michael Haney. Leo, there is a scene where the child actor on your Western, a girl, phones you when you are in a bad place. It is a poignant moment. Very. Not to define Rick's journey, but it's a journey not only of acceptance but of appreciation. When you are in his position, constantly looking for that foothold to stardom, and doors keep shutting in your face, after a while you start to realize, can I be happy where I am? Is there satisfaction in not achieving that goal? It's a journey for Rick, of his dreams constantly being trampled on, the effects of questioning himself on an everyday basis, self-hatred. But can he get a place of acceptance and appreciation for being in this industry? Is there any celebration of that? Or is it just a constant source of disappointment? That's the arc we are going for with Rick. But like I said, it's Quentin's celebration of this industry and all those who kept at it, even if all those dreams they had as a young Spitfire didn't come to fruition. Michael Haney. Was it better to have tried or not to have tried, right? Leonardo DiCaprio. In a lot of ways, I think that is the story. Michael Haney has another title of a section for us, and this one is called Success, period. Identity, period. Manhood, period. Michael Haney. You touched on a theme a minute ago. On the surface, this is a film about actors in 1969, dealing with change in Hollywood. But what is powerful and universal is that, at the root, this is a story about two men battling forces that many men are confronting right now. That is what happens to me when I am in the middle of my career, in the middle of my life, and the industry I am working in doesn't want me, or the job I have had for decades, it's changing or going away. Can I reinvent myself? So many guys are facing that anxiety right now. This is Angela. This is another aside. You know what really is interesting to me is how Michael Haney has geared his article, his questions, and his focuses towards things that are male concerns and from a male's perspective to a male, and without being facetious or disrespectful in any way, how this film relates to things that males are going through, because this is Esquire magazine. Now, if this were Vogue, it would probably be all about the clothes, the style of the set design even, but the styles of the clothing and the grooming and how that has changes through the decades, and how it reflects the lifestyles that are going on. For instance, the hippies have a very free, carefree way of dressing, but everybody, has this same kind of vibe that is cool and hip, groovy, as they said in the day. So the slant of the article is very interesting to me. That was my aside, and now back to the article. Leonardo DiCaprio. I think you said it basically right on. Brad Pitt. Exactly. Who am I now? Where's my meaning? Michael Haney. Because for men, identity comes from work. And you play two men trying to understand who they are, what's left, what's their purpose. If they lose that identity, can they reinvent themselves and determine their future? Quentin Tarantino. Rick comes to town in 55. He's a young, good-looking guy. He thinks, hey, I'm in Missouri. Let me get the F out of here and go where good-looking guys make money. Hollywood. I'll get some tight jeans and hang around Schwab's drugstore. Brad Pitt. That was me in 86. Box parentheses, smiles, period, end box parentheses. Quentin Tarantino. Hey, and it worked, too. Good on ya. Michael Haney. Except it wasn't Schwab's. Where was it? Brad Pitt. Taco Bell. Wait, sorry. Shakey's Pizza. Michael Haney. Which location? Brad Pitt, in box parentheses, smiles. A very good question. In fact, there were two. At first, I went to the one in North Hollywood. Then I made some money and I got to advance to the one in Hollywood on Sunset Boulevard. You could eat for $1.49. It was all you could eat, and that would be your meal for the day. You would just cram as much food as you could, then you were good till the next day. Quentin Tarantino. Those mojo potatoes. I'm sure in your early days he played pool at Barney's Beanery too. Brad Pitt. Yep, sure did. Okay, I have got to take an aside here because I played pool at Barney's Beanery, and now I'm fangirling just a bit. Wow, I wonder if we played at the same table. I wonder if I saw him and didn't know that he was, who he was, because he wasn't, a household face or name yet. I might have played pool with Brad Pitt. It could have happened. Okay, breathing must return to normal. I actually pressed the pause button and I actually breathed a little bit. Okay, back to the article. Quentin Tarantino. But the thing is, Rick was sold a bill of goods. Everyone else was sold. To be a young leading man is to be macho and masculine and sexy and handsome and chiseled. Michael Haney. Well, for his generation, that's the epitome of manhood, of male identity. Quentin Tarantino. Exactly. And that's how you got on a Western show back then. Brad Pitt. And everyone came from that. Burt Reynolds, Clint Eastwood, Quentin Tarantino. All those guys. Now, in 1969, the new leading men are the exact opposite. They are skinny, shaggy-haired guys. There's a pansexuality about them. And it's the hippie sons of famous people. So it's Peter Fonda. It's Michael Douglas, Arlo Guthrie, or Michael Sarrazin. Michael Haney. What's fascinating, there is the rise of the pretty leading man, but there is also the rise of the anti-leading man. Again, look at 1969. Dustin Hoffman plays Ratso Rizzo in a corrupted Western, Midnight Cowboy. And then, who is the complete embodiment of the new anti-leading man? Charles Manson. He's hairy and charismatic and young. Plus, he gets the chicks. And he literally steals the old dream factories from these guys. He's living on an old movie set. Manson usurps it all. Even the headlines. He becomes more famous than all of them. Brad Pitt. Right. Well put. Well put. Quentin Tarantino. In the film, there's a sequence that takes place on Spahn Ranch. Through the whole movie, we've been hanging out on real Hollywood Western sound stages, where phony versions of this kind of masculine drama are being played out for cameras. Then we end up on Spahn Ranch, on this dilapidated Western backlot, and those masculine rituals are played out, but this time with real-world consequences, and no one's acting. Michael Haney. Brad, there's a great moment in the film that embodies Cliff. If Rick can never see outside himself, you are a guy who's more aware of the wider world. Like when you're at the red light and that Manson hippie girl walks in front of your car. It's a great moment you give us with your eyes. We see a guy recognizing, literally, that he's seeing the new players coming on stage. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Quentin Tarantino. No, you're reading it right. Michael Haney. How do you see Cliff? Brad Pitt. He's at peace with his mac and cheese. Even if he doesn't have milk. He's content with his place in life. Pretty thrilled just to be alive that day. I just felt like he would be all right wherever he landed. He would figure it out. He isn't asking for that much. So when he sees that girl, he knows something new and exciting is coming along. This is not the lady at Denny's. Leo DiCaprio. As I'm thinking about it, I've had these relationships in the industry too. You need your support system. You need that guy you can sit there and watch TV with and not say a fucking word with for 5 hours. You need to know somebody is there. When we were doing the movie, my relationship with Brad clicked. It was very early on where he improvised a line and it changed everything. In the scene, as it was written, I'm coming to set hungover and I am basically getting my fate handed to me, discovering what my future is going to be in this industry. And I'm really down. And in the scene, Brad ad-libs. He just comes out with this line. He looks at me and says, "Hey, you're Rick fucking Dalton. Don't you forget that." Quentin Tarantino. That was a thing Brad just said. And it ended up being a thing. Michael Haney. How did you find that line, Brad? Brad Pitt. True story. This was probably early 90s. I was on set and I was whining about something and lamenting something. I was pretty low, and this guy was basically saying to me, get your head up. Hold your head up. Quit your whining. You're Brad fucking Pitt. I would like to be Brad fucking Pitt. It did me a favor. I needed to hear it. That day I flashed on that. The way Quentin's scene was constructed. It reminded me of it. This is my last aside on this part, on episode 2 here. I have heard a few interviews that they have done that are on YouTube, available on YouTube, and there's one where there's a larger group of them. It incorporates Margot Robbie and a couple of, I think, the director and someone else of great importance. I think it was the one where they were in France. The premiere had just come out, probably in Paris, I would imagine, and they had translators. It was very fabulous and sophisticated. They each had unusual to Americans looking water bottles in front of them and a linen tablecloth, a long table with a big crowd in front of them, and there was an interpreter. It was all very, very amazing. And Brad told this same story. However, in this story, Brad said, I'll try to tell you it pretty as close as I can remember it. I know it won't be verbatim or anything like that. But I think he says, when I was first on the scene in Hollywood, I had this guy that used to go with me everywhere. And he said he was pretty much useless, except when I really needed it, he would look at me. He could tell when I needed to be cheered up or, told something that would change my mood. And he would say this one thing to me. And he would say, "You're Brad fucking Pitt, and don't you forget it." And he said that was where he got the line from, and that it was a true story. And now you know there's this version that's out there, and it's very detailed like that. So, okay, people, we are going to conclude this portion of this interview tonight. It's about like 12:30 midnight as I am wrapping this up on this day for myself. We will start episode 3 with a title that Michael Haney has given that portion, called The Long View. So until then, I hope that you have a wonderful evening or daytime, depending on when you are reading. It's not really reading, but it seems like reading, doesn't it? wherever you are listening to this and whenever you are listening. I wish you well. I'll tell you our slogan, our saying, which is, now you go out and be the star of your own life. And until tomorrow, you have a wonderful life, and I will see you back here again in episode 3. Until then, this is Angela Arden. Bye now. If you liked this video and you'd like to see more, and this is so important to a vlogger's survival, please 1, subscribe, 2, like, and 3, hit that bell. Also, if you'd like to help Hollywood Folklore's goal of road tripping to great story destinations in Hollywood, just click on my Patreon address below, which is just www.patreon.com/HollywoodStars. And that will put you smack dab in the middle of Hollywood Folklore at Patreon. Thank you for the love, and right back at ya.